The evening was cold, and the wind was sharp. Ariba stood outside a fancy restaurant, holding her belly with both hands. She was 7 months pregnant. Her coat was thin, and her shoes were wet from walking. Her face looked tired, but her eyes were full of hope. She looked at the golden sign, La Elegance Restaurant. This was her husband Faisan's restaurant. She had come to surprise him. He had been working late these days. Ariba missed him. She wanted to have dinner with him and talk. As she pushed the door open and stepped inside, warm air hit her face, but her smile faded quickly. A young hostess stood at the front desk. She wore a stylish uniform and had perfect makeup. Her name tag said Sana. "Hello," Ariba said softly. "I'm here to see my husband, Faisan. He works here. He's the owner." Sana looked her up and down. She saw Ariba's simple clothes, her tired face, her swollen belly. Then Sana smiled, coldly. "I'm sorry, ma'am. You must be mistaken. Our owner is very busy. You can't go in without a reservation." Ariba blinked. "I'm his wife. Please just tell him I'm here. He's not picking up my calls." Sana crossed her arms. "Look, this isn't a place for visitors like you. Maybe you're confused. Please leave." Ariba's heart dropped. "I walked here for an hour. I just need to see Faisan. It's important." "No," Sana said firmly. "You're not allowed inside." Other people in the restaurant looked over, curious. Ariba felt small, embarrassed. She turned around and stepped outside. The cold air hit her again like a slap. She sat on the steps outside the door. Her feet were swollen. Her back ached. But she waited. She believed Faisan would come out soon. Maybe he didn't know she was here. Minutes passed, then hours. The sun went down. The streetlights came on. Ariba hugged herself and tried to stay warm. Her stomach growled. She hadn't eaten all day. She didn't want to cry, but her eyes were wet. Inside the restaurant, Sana watched from the glass window. A waiter came up to her. "Who is that lady outside?" he asked. Sana replied sharply, "Nobody, just a beggar causing drama." But the waiter looked again. "She doesn't look like a beggar. She looks pregnant and sad." "Mind your own business," Sana snapped. Back outside, Ariba began to shiver. Her hands were cold. Her baby kicked inside her belly, and she rubbed it gently. "Just a little longer," she whispered. "Your papa will come." Her phone was dead. No more calls. No way to ask for help. A young couple walked past and glanced at her with pity. She felt invisible, like the world didn't care. Suddenly, her head spun. Her vision blurred. She felt weak. She tried to stand up, but her legs gave out. Ariba collapsed on the cold ground. Inside, the waiter who had been watching her gasped. She fainted. He ran out, pushing through the front door. "Call an ambulance," he shouted. People gathered. A small crowd formed. Sana stood frozen, her face pale. She hadn't expected this. The waiter knelt beside Ariba and checked her breathing. She was still alive, but weak. Another staff member ran out with a blanket and covered her. "Who is she?" he asked. "She said she's the owner's wife," the waiter replied. Suddenly, Sana felt her heart drop. She rushed to Ariba's purse and opened it. There was an ID card inside. She stared at it in shock. The name on the card, Ariba Faisan Malik. Sana's hands began to shake. She was telling the truth. One of the waiters whispered. Sana didn't answer. Her face went white. She felt like the floor had disappeared under her feet. She had left the owner's pregnant wife outside, for hours, in the cold. And now, everyone would know. The ambulance lights flashed outside the restaurant. People watched as the medical team placed Ariba on a stretcher. Her face was pale, and her hands were cold. She didn't open her eyes. The young waiter, Bilal, stood near her, worried. He had never seen something like this happen in their restaurant before. "She said she was the owner's wife," he told the paramedic. "She is," Another worker whispered, I saw her ID. Her name is Ariba Faison Malik. Inside the restaurant, Sana stood in a corner, shaking. She had made a huge mistake, a mistake that could destroy everything. She quickly took out her phone and called someone. Hello, a man's voice answered. Faison. It's me, Sana, she said, trying to sound normal. What's going on? I saw missed calls, Faison asked. Nothing important, Sana lied. Everything is fine here. Faison sighed. All right. I'll be there soon. Sana hung up and looked around. Everyone was whispering, staring at her. Bilal walked up to her. Why didn't you let her in? He asked softly. She didn't look like she belonged here, Sana whispered. She was pregnant. You left her outside in the cold for hours, Bilal said, angry now. She almost passed out. Sana's voice rose. You don't know anything. She came without warning. What if she was lying? She wasn't, Bilal said coldly. She's his wife. And now you'll have to face him. Sana's heart raced. She had always liked Faison. She had hoped one day maybe he would see her, but now that hope was gone. At the hospital, Ariba slowly opened her eyes. The lights were bright. Her head hurt. A kind nurse stood beside her. You're safe now, the nurse said gently. You fainted outside a restaurant. Someone called for help. Ariba blinked. Where is Faison? My husband. We called him, the nurse replied. He's on his way. Ariba touched her belly. The baby kicked softly. A tear rolled down her cheek. She remembered sitting on the cold steps. The pain. The loneliness. Why didn't he come? Why didn't he answer my calls? Back at the restaurant, Faison finally arrived. He looked calm, but his eyes were sharp. He walked in quickly. Where's Ariba? He asked. No one answered. Where is my wife? He asked again, louder. Bilal stepped forward. She fainted outside. The ambulance took her to City Hospital. Faison's face changed. His hands clenched. Outside. What was she doing outside? Sana stepped forward, trying to stay calm. She came here suddenly. I didn't know who she was. I thought. You thought? Faison interrupted. You thought a pregnant woman standing in the cold didn't deserve kindness. I didn't recognize her, Sana said, her voice weak now. You didn't even try. Faison said. You didn't call me. You didn't ask anyone. There was silence. Faison turned to Bilal. Did you help her? Bilal nodded. Yes. I saw her collapse. We called the ambulance. Faison looked at him with respect. Thank you. He turned back to Sana. I trusted you to manage this place with heart, but you treated my wife like trash. Sana's lips trembled. I didn't mean to. She could have lost the baby, Faison said, his voice breaking. You don't get to say, I didn't mean to. Faison rushed out of the restaurant and drove to the hospital. His heart was full of guilt. How did I not see her calls? Why didn't I check sooner? At the hospital, he found Ariba lying in bed, her eyes open. She looked at him. He sat beside her and held her hand. I'm sorry, he said softly. I should have come sooner. I should have answered. Ariba didn't speak for a moment. Then she said, I waited outside. They didn't let me in. Tears fell from her eyes. Faison wiped them gently. You'll never wait outside again. I promise. He kissed her forehead. The baby kicked again, as if reminding them both of the life inside. Back at the restaurant, Sana sat alone in the manager's office. Her eyes stared at the wall. Her hands were cold. Her dream was falling apart, and she knew this was just the beginning of the storm. The next morning was quiet, but something had changed. Faison sat in his office at home. Ariba was sleeping in the next room. The doctors said she and the baby were safe now, but Faison couldn't sleep. His heart was heavy with guilt and anger. He looked at his phone again. There were 6 missed calls from Ariba, and 2 from Bilal, the young waiter at the restaurant. Faizen's eyes narrowed. Why did Bilal call me? What did he know? Faizen called him back. Bilal picked up quickly. Sir, I'm so glad you called. Bilal, Faizen said calmly. Tell me everything that happened. I want the truth. All of it. Bilal didn't hide anything. He told Faizen how Ariba came, how she asked for him, and how Sana refused to let her in. She begged, sir, Bilal said. She was cold, tired, and pregnant. Sana said she was lying and pushed her outside. Faizen clenched his jaw. Bilal continued. She sat on the steps for hours. I kept looking at her. I wanted to help, but Sana told me to stay away. Faizen's voice was low. And then she fainted. I ran out and called the ambulance, Bilal said. I checked her purse and saw her ID. That's when we all knew she was telling the truth. Faizen didn't speak for a moment. Thank you, Bilal, he finally said. You did the right thing. I'll never forget it. He ended the call and stood up. His face was serious. His hands were shaking. How could this happen in my own restaurant? How could I be so blind? At the restaurant, Sana stood nervously near the counter. She knew Faizen would come today, and she was scared. The staff were quiet around her. No one smiled at her now. They had seen what she did. They didn't respect her anymore. She tried to pretend everything was normal, but her heart wasn't calm. Suddenly, the main door opened. Faizen walked in. Everyone looked up. He didn't say a word. He walked straight toward her. Sana stood up quickly. Faizen, I'm so sorry. I didn't know who she was. I didn't mean to. Enough, Faizen said. His voice was cold. You lied to me last night. You said everything was fine. I didn't want to disturb you, Sana said. You left my pregnant wife in the cold. She fainted outside. Do you know what could have happened? Faizen shouted now. The staff backed away. The restaurant went silent. Sana's eyes filled with tears. Please, I didn't mean for this to happen. But it did happen, Faizen said. And you tried to hide it. Sana broke down. I thought she was just some poor woman pretending. I didn't know. You judged her because of her clothes, because she didn't look rich. You never cared to check, Faizen said sharply. This place was built with love. It's not just for rich people. It's for everyone. Sana looked at the floor, crying now. Faizen turned to the staff. From now on, no one will ever be treated the way Ariba was treated, he said. Not in my restaurant. The workers nodded. I trusted you, Sana. But now I see I made a mistake, Faizen said. She looked up at him, her voice shaking. Are you firing me? Faizen didn't answer for a moment. Then he said softly, Go home, Sana. You're not welcome here anymore. She covered her mouth and walked out slowly, broken. That night, Faizen sat beside Ariba again. He held her hand. I fired her, he said. Ariba looked at him, tears in her eyes. You didn't have to. Yes, I did, he said. You are my wife, my family. No one should treat you like that. Ever. I was scared, Ariba said. I thought something was wrong with me. Maybe I didn't belong in your world. Faizen's eyes filled with tears. Don't ever say that. You are my world. Ariba leaned on his shoulder, and he kissed her head. I love you, he whispered, and I'll protect you and our baby. Always. The next morning, Faizen sat in his car, staring at the small slip of paper in his hand. It had a name on it, Zoya Und. The memories came rushing back. Zoya was his first serious relationship. Beautiful, smart, but proud. She didn't like that Faizen came from a middle-class background. She wanted luxury, power, status. So when he started his restaurant business and worked day and night, she left him, without warning. No goodbye, just silence. And now, she was back. Not directly, but through Sana. Faison felt cold inside. Had Sana and Zoya been working together? He called Bilal, and they met at a quiet coffee shop. "I need you to listen carefully," Faison said. Bilal nodded. Faison showed him the call log and played the recorded security footage again, where Sana made that strange call after sending Ariba away. She said, "He'll never find out. I traced the number. It belongs to Zoya," Faison explained. Bilal's eyes widened. "Zoya, isn't that your ex?" "Yes," Faison said. "And now I know why all of this happened." Later that day, Faison asked his tech team to check more security footage from previous weeks. They searched for anything unusual, and they found it. 2 weeks ago, late at night, Sana was sitting in the back office. She was on a video call. On the screen was Zoya. Their voices were low, but the team boosted the sound. Zoya's voice was sharp. "You know what to do. Make her feel small. Make her go away. If she breaks, Faison will see her as weak." Sana nodded on the video. "But what if he finds out?" "He won't. Just make her feel like she doesn't belong in his world. That's how we win." Faison stared at the screen, shocked. His face turned pale. His hands clenched. It wasn't just rudeness. It wasn't just pride. It was a plan. A plan to destroy Ariba's confidence, to break her from the inside. And it almost worked. Faison went straight home. Ariba was resting on the couch, reading a book. She looked up and smiled softly. "You're home early." Faison sat next to her and held her hand. "I need to tell you something," he said gently, "and it might hurt." She looked worried. "What is it?" He told her everything. About Zoya, the phone calls, the video footage, Sana's betrayal. Ariba listened in silence, her eyes wide. "She wanted me to leave you," Ariba whispered. "She wanted me to feel small." Faison nodded. "But you didn't leave. You stayed strong. That's why I know. You're braver than anyone I know." Ariba's voice cracked. "I felt like I didn't belong. Like I wasn't good enough for your world." He hugged her tightly. "You are my world. No one else." They cried together. Not out of pain, but relief. The truth was finally out. The next day, Faison called a staff meeting at the restaurant. He played the video for everyone to see. Some people gasped. Some cried. Others were angry. "This is what was going on behind our backs," Faison said, "and I let it happen because I wasn't paying attention." He paused. "But I won't let it continue." The staff clapped. Then Faison made a public statement again. He released the footage to the media and explained everything. He didn't hide the truth. He named Zoya. He named Sana. And he stood beside Ariba in front of the cameras. "This is my wife, the strongest woman I know," Faison said, "and I won't stay silent anymore." The world responded. Thousands of people supported them online. Messages came from around the world, cheering for Ariba's courage and Faison's honesty. Some people called them the couple who stood strong against hate. The hospital room was quiet, filled with soft beeping sounds and the gentle rain tapping on the window. Ariba lay on the hospital bed, her face tired but glowing. Her hair was messy, her hands weak, but her eyes were full of love. In her arms, wrapped in a soft white blanket, lay a tiny baby girl. Her skin was soft like cotton, her fingers no bigger than flower petals, and her little eyes were still closed. But her quiet breathing filled the room with warmth. Faison stood by Ariba's side, staring at their daughter like she was the most precious thing in the world. He gently touched the baby's hand. "She's perfect," he whispered. Ariba smiled, her eyes moist. "She looks like you." Faison shook his head. "She's beautiful, so she must look like you." They both smiled, but then Ariba's smile faded into emotion. Tears ran down her cheeks. She wasn't crying out of pain. She was crying from everything she had been through. being ignored, being insulted, being left outside when she was pregnant and weak. The cold rain, the locked door, the betrayal. But now, that same rain was falling again, outside this hospital window. Only this time, it wasn't a curse, it was peace. "Do you remember that night?" she whispered, "when they left me outside in the rain?" Faison nodded slowly, his face darkening. "I thought I would die there," she said quietly. "I was so scared. I thought our baby wouldn't survive." Faison held her hand tightly. "But you did survive. You fought for both of you." Ariba looked down at her daughter. "She gave me the strength. Even inside me, she was my light." Faison nodded. "Then we will call her Noor." Ariba looked at him, surprised. "Yes," Faison said, "because even in the darkness, she gave you light. She gave us light." Ariba kissed Noor's forehead and whispered, "You're our sunshine after the storm." Outside the room, doctors and nurses smiled as they walked by. Even they knew the story. The woman who was once insulted had now become a symbol of grace and strength. Down the hallway, Zoya sat alone in a waiting chair. No one called her. No one looked at her. She had come to see what she had lost forever. But no one even allowed her inside. She saw Faison through the glass window, smiling, holding his baby, loving his wife. Zoya wiped her tears and walked away silently. Her chapter had ended. Back in the room, Ariba was now resting. Faison sat near her, holding little Noor close to his chest. He gently rocked her back and forth, whispering, "No matter what comes, I will protect you. I will protect your mother. We're a family now. No one can hurt us anymore." He looked out the window at the rain. But this time, it didn't feel cold. It felt like a blessing. Zoya sat in her expensive apartment, her face dark with anger. She threw her phone on the table. News channels were praising Faison and Ariba. Social media was filled with kind words for the couple. Everyone was calling Faison a brave husband and Ariba a strong wife. But for Zoya, it was like poison. She was supposed to cry. She was supposed to leave him, Zoya thought. But she stayed. And now people love her. Zoya's plan had failed. Her name was out in public now. People were messaging her, angry, disappointed, shocked. Some of her business deals were getting canceled. Some of her friends had stopped talking to her. But Zoya wasn't done yet. If I couldn't break them with lies, she thought, maybe I can destroy them with truth. Zoya opened her laptop and typed a long message. She began gathering old emails, pictures, and texts from years ago, back when she and Faison were together. She collected every moment of their past, twisting them to look worse than they were. She planned to leak everything online. She told herself, if people think Faison is not so perfect, maybe they'll stop trusting him. Maybe Ariba will doubt him too. She smiled to herself. Meanwhile, Faison and Ariba were finally at peace, for a moment. Ariba was resting more. Faison had set up a small office at home to stay close to her. Their life was slowly returning to normal. But then, the first message came. It was from an unknown number. Faison opened it. There was a picture of him and Zoya at a party 5 years ago. It was harmless, but the message below was not. "This is just the beginning. Let's see how loyal your wife really is." Faison's heart dropped. He ran to Ariba and showed her the message. She looked at the picture quietly. Then, to his surprise, she smiled. "I've already seen this photo before," she said. Faison blinked. "You have?" "Yes," Ariba nodded. "You told me about Zoya a long time ago. You never hid anything from me." He looked at her, amazed. "You trusted me, even now." She held his hand. "You chose me. You married me. I know who you are now, Faison, not who you were 5 years ago." Faison hugged her tightly. The storm had arrived, but their love didn't shake. But Zoya wasn't done yet. She posted a long message online. You call him honest. You call her strong. You don't know the full story. She included pictures, emails, even old arguments. The post spread like fire. Some people believed it. Some didn't. But Ariba and Faison stood firm. That night, they went live on social media together. Faison faced the camera. Yes, I dated Zoya years ago. Yes, we had problems. But that ended a long time ago. I've never hidden that from my wife. Ariba nodded. I knew about everything. And I still chose him. Because I know the man he is today. Then Faison said something powerful. Zoya didn't lose me because of Ariba. She lost me because of herself. The internet exploded. People clapped for their courage. And slowly, the hate faded. The next day, Zoya sat alone. Her face was pale. Her phone didn't ring anymore. Her fake friends had disappeared. Her plan was finished. She stared at the screen, where Faison and Ariba were smiling in their live video replay. She whispered to herself, they won. And she finally closed the laptop. Back at home, Ariba sat on the bed, her hand over her belly. Faison sat beside her, reading messages from followers. Thank you for showing real love. You two give us hope. We're with you. Ariba looked at Faison. I don't care what people say now. We've already passed the biggest test. He nodded. Nothing can break us. She smiled. We're not just husband and wife anymore. We're a team. They held hands. Together, they had defeated a silent war, a war of jealousy, lies, and hate. Faison stared at his phone long after the call ended. Ariba noticed his face turning pale. Who was it? Faison. He looked at her, unsure whether to say it, but he couldn't hide it anymore. Someone said this isn't over, he said slowly. They said, someone even closer to us is involved. Ariba's heart skipped a beat. Closer? Who? Faison shook his head. I don't know, but I have to find out. The next day, Faison sat with Bilal in his office. I need you to check everything again, Faison said. Emails, messages, staff activity, everything. If someone else helped Zoya, I want to know who. Bilal nodded and got to work. Hours passed. Finally, Bilal returned with a file. There's something you should see, he said. Faison opened the file. It was a printed conversation between Sana and another staff member. His eyes widened when he read the name. Nida. Faison whispered the name like a secret. Nida was his cousin. She worked in the office, helped with accounts, and even visited their home often. She had always been kind to Ariba, or so it seemed. Bilal looked confused. But why would Nida do this? Faison remembered something. A few months ago, Nida once joked, You married a simple girl like Ariba. I thought you'd choose someone more classy. At the time, he laughed it off. Now, that joke sounded different. He picked up his phone and called Nida. Nida, I need to talk. Can you come over? That evening, Nida came to Faison's house. She smiled at Ariba, pretending like everything was normal. But Faison didn't waste time. He placed the printed messages in front of her. Her smile disappeared. What's this? She asked, trying to stay calm. You tell me, Faison said firmly. You talked to Sana. You knew about Zoya's plan. Why? Nida's face changed. She looked down. Then she finally spoke. I didn't want to hurt you, Faison. But I was angry. Angry about what? You chose her, Nida said, pointing at Ariba. A girl with no rich background. No big name. You made her part of our family, and everyone started praising her. Ariba gasped softly. You were jealous, Faison said in disbelief. I helped build your business. Nida said, I was always there for you. But then she came, and everything changed. You never saw me the same again. Faison stood up, his face red with anger. You didn't lose my respect because of Ariba. You lost it because of your actions. You betrayed us. Naida's eyes filled with tears, but Faison's voice was cold now. You're no longer part of this company, and I don't want you in our lives again. She got up and left the house in silence. Ariba sat frozen. How many more people hate me just for being your wife? Faison knelt beside her. I don't care who hates. I care about who loves. He held her hands. And I love you more every day. The next day, Faison made one last public video. He shared the full truth, how jealousy and pride had nearly broken their home. But we chose love over hate, he said. Truth over lies. Forgiveness over revenge. Ariba joined him and smiled softly. Sometimes the real enemy is not far away, she said. Sometimes it wears a friendly face. The video went viral. Millions watched it. And once again, people stood by their side. Final emotional scene. Weeks passed. The baby's due date came closer. One rainy night, Ariba went into labor. Faison rushed her to the hospital, his hands shaking, heart racing. Hours later, the doctor came out smiling. Congratulations, she said. It's a baby girl. Tears ran down Faison's face. He walked into the room and saw Ariba holding their daughter. She's beautiful, Ariba whispered. Faison kissed both of them. We'll name her Noor, he said softly, because she brought light into our darkest days. Ariba smiled. And for the first time, in a long time, everything felt right. The hospital room was quiet, filled with soft beeping sounds and the gentle rain tapping on the window. Ariba lay on the hospital bed, her face tired but glowing. Her hair was messy, her hands weak, but her eyes were full of love. In her arms, wrapped in a soft white blanket, lay a tiny baby girl. Her skin was soft like cotton, her fingers no bigger than flower petals, and her little eyes were still closed. But her quiet breathing filled the room with warmth. Faison stood by Ariba's side, staring at their daughter like she was the most precious thing in the world. He gently touched the baby's hand. She's perfect, he whispered. Ariba smiled, her eyes moist. She looks like you. Faison shook his head. She's beautiful, so she must look like you. They both smiled, but then Ariba's smile faded into emotion. Tears ran down her cheeks. She wasn't crying out of pain. She was crying from everything she had been through. Being ignored, being insulted, being left outside when she was pregnant and weak. The cold rain, the locked door, the betrayal. But now, that same rain was falling again, outside this hospital window. Only this time, it wasn't a curse. It was peace. Do you remember that night, she whispered, when they left me outside in the rain? Faison nodded slowly, his face darkening. I thought I would die there, she said quietly. I was so scared. I thought our baby wouldn't survive. Faison held her hand tightly. But you did survive. You fought for both of you. Ariba looked down at her daughter. She gave me the strength. Even inside me, she was my light. Faison nodded. Then we will call her Noor. Ariba looked at him, surprised. Yes, Faison said, because even in the darkness, she gave you light. She gave us light. Ariba kissed Noor's forehead and whispered, You're our sunshine after the storm. Outside the room, doctors and nurses smiled as they walked by. Even they knew the story. The woman who was once insulted had now become a symbol of grace and strength. Down the hallway, Zoya sat alone in a waiting chair. No one called her. No one looked at her. She had come to see what she had lost forever. But no one even allowed her inside. She saw Faison through the glass window, smiling, holding his baby, loving his wife. Zoya wiped her tears and walked away silently. Her chapter had ended. Back in the room, Ariba was now resting. Faison sat near her, holding little Noor close to his chest. He gently rocked her back and forth, whispering, No matter what comes, I will protect you. I will protect your mother. We're a family now. No one can hurt us anymore. He looked out the window at the rain. But this time, it didn't feel cold. It felt like a blessing.